Hello, hello, hello. And it's time for the evening session of WealthE Wednesday as we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my webcam going here. So wonderful to have you all online. And I love this these WealthE Wednesdays, and got people from all over the world, which is always fantastic. And Lee, thank you very much for joining us. Fantastic to have you from your new house in Saudi Arabia. Huh?
Absolutely, coming to you from Riyadh, and it's fantastic to be with you. Thank you for joining us, guys. We look forward to an action-packed power hour with Scott. And as normal, please just pop any of your questions that you have throughout the webinar into the box. I'll be monitoring it. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Awesome. So just in the meantime, just post where you're from. It's always good, gets a bit of interaction, and it also shows us that you know where the question box is, which is always a good way to prove that you know what is going on. So we're gonna have some fun tonight. There's lots to share. Just to remind everyone that we did the morning, or sorry, not so much morning, depending on what time zone you're in, the lunchtime session today, and that's where we really go into the deals. If you want a link to that, I'm sure Lee can post a link to the deals. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time today on the deals because we spent an hour this morning going through it. What I'm going to spend tonight is going into some learnings and some lessons, because there's a lot that I want to share in terms of where we're going and give out some value in terms of what we're doing. So I think, Lee, without further ado, is it time to rock and roll?
Absolutely. Let's dive straight in and hear what you've got to share with us this month.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's reminding everyone that WealthE Wednesday is about value, property, people, profit, purpose, and fun. So let's try and have some fun tonight and really go into the detail here. People always ask us, why are we doing this? And the reason being is you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. It's a principle of Zig Ziglar. I heard it many, many years ago, and it's the principle upon which we built our whole business. I tend to always joke with my son, when, I always say to him, if you want more money, and I always say, what do you need to do? And I always, and he now knows you have to answer, you have to create more value. And so the purpose of tonight is that we really want to add value to you and hopefully, in terms of where you're at. So I want to just take a couple of steps back in the learning. And if this is your first webinar, great. If this is your 150th webinar, great. I'm going to be doing a very short introduction, so you don't need to worry. I'm a very big believer that you've got to get very clear on your why. But then you can figure out your how and your what. So most people are running around trying to figure out their how and their what. How do they invest overseas? What do they have to do? How do they get wealthy? What do they have to do? But you've got to get clear on your why. And that for me is a critical component. My why is, I've spoken a lot about it, but my father, did what we all taught to do, went to school, went to university, worked hard, got a great job, invested, trusted the financial industry, and yet actually died broke. And unfortunately, statistically, 94% of people are going to follow my father. When we looked into it and did the research, 5% of people are going to be financially independent, which at the age of 65 means that you earn 25% less than your last paycheck, which for me, quite frankly, is just 25% poorer. And only 1% of people are wealthy. And when we did the research, there was an overwhelming trend of what wealthy people did, and one of them was property. And so this was a picture of me and my dad when I was 13 years old on my first property project. And I decided at a very young age that I wanted to get into property. I also wanted to marry it together with technology. And when I was 6 years old, I was programming on a Commodore 64, programming a little logo turtle around. And always been trying to figure out how we could marry the two together. I always joke with the game of Monopoly. Most of us have played the game of Monopoly. Most of us love the game of Monopoly. And yet our dream was, how could we turn the game of Monopoly into a real life situation? And then, in terms of the big picture purpose, when you live in Africa, the wealth gap or income inequality is really, really stark. It's in your faces all the time. When you look at the research, it's just getting worse and worse every single year, with the top 1% now earning more than 50% of the world's wealth. 30 or 40 years ago, it was less than 25%. Where you're born geographically has a material impact on, your ability to create wealth. Whether you're a male or a female has a dramatic impact. Unfortunately, it's skewed very, very wrongly or strongly in the favor of males. And equally for the millennials, unfortunately, they've just been, born at the wrong time. And all of these problems need to be solved. Now, I tend to say to people, you know, are you in the top 1%? So a lot of people from all over the world have put in where they're from. And I challenge you to ask yourself if you're part of the top 1%. But what's also interesting in terms of the top 1% is sometimes you might be earning the income, you might be getting the salary, but are you investing like the top 1%? And that's something we're going to be going into tonight and looking at tonight. When you look at the statistics, 49% of the world's wealth is held in property. Only 12.9% of the world's population has access to that property. And of that 12.9%, less than 1% of people retire wealthy. And this is why we do what we do. We decided to change that. We decided to allow the 99% to be able to invest like the top 1% using technology. And that is what, you know, we're all about, and that is what WealthE Wednesday is all about. Our vision is to make investing as simple as a swipe of a finger, and literally ultimately one day to get it down to $1 per person. Now, we're not there yet, and people always say to me, you know, $1 is not going to change people's lives, and I agree with them, it won't. But what it'll do is it'll change their habits. And I've learned one thing about wealthy people: if you change your habits, you can change your financial destiny. In terms of the property system, as most of you are aware, it is actually broken. You've got you, the investor, over here. You're trying to invest in a deal over here. There's middlemen all the way through the process. In fact, I'm being very kind because there's actually 16 different middlemen. There's no trust, there's no transparency, and because of the high fees, there's low returns. And we decided to change that. We decided to make it really easy. And so we go out and we find great property partners like Crestwood Property Solutions in the UK. They list their property on the platform. You and I from around the world get access to those opportunities. And then there's 4 simple steps. We sign up and we can view the deals. We can select an investment. We can transact online, and we can manage our global portfolio all in one place. And, you know, we've really got quite a comprehensive team now across 5 different continents, and really a balance between technology and real estate in terms of helping not only grow the company, but you know, in terms of the investors and driving the vision forward. What's quite important is that what we can now provide people is that what used to take months, if not years, there was a huge amount of hassles, management, maintenance, broken toilets, and that's if you're just doing local investment. If you're going offshore, you know, you've got tax, structuring, compliance, etc., etc., etc. And now we've literally allowed people on the platform to be able to do it in a couple of minutes, get access to the best partners, get access to the best opportunities, and on WealthE Wednesday to be able to literally invest from $1,000, which, you know, the great thing is that you get the opportunity now just to be able to focus on the best returns. In terms of our track record, if you want to see our track record, what I would recommend is you can literally go in and, sorry, that is Hootsuite, a social media platform. So if I just go into Migrate, I'm just doing it live for you. I have shared my screen, haven't I? Yeah, just suddenly had a heart attack there.
No, we can see it.
Right. So you can literally go into the company, you can click on it here, and no, it's not there, marketplace, and then our track record. And you can literally go into our track record, you can go and see all the different deals, you can see what we've done, the historical performance, etc., etc., etc. So it's really important to be able to go and see the type of returns that have been paid over the last 5 years. I'm a big believer sort of anyone can talk about, you know, delivering results, but some people have actually done it. And then when you look at the proof, you know, are you the only idiot that's turned up on a webinar and, you know, this all sounds too good to be true? Well, the good news is no. You know, we've got members in 133 countries. We've got investors in 62 countries. We've done over $600 million in real estate deals. We've had $96 million go through the platform. We've paid out over $12 million in dividends. We've won numerous awards. In fact, last week alone, we were with SARB, the South African Reserve Bank, and the FSCA, they call it FISCA, which are the regulators here. They were running a competition in Africa, and we were one of the top 12 finalists. We are one of the top 12 finalists in that process. But probably the one we're proudest of is that we've got a higher than 70% reinvestment rate. In fact, it's sitting at 78% at the moment, which is where people invest and then they reinvest, which I believe is telling of us delivering on what we say. And when we look at the current deals, you know, what you need to do, and if I go back to going live here, is you literally go and you can sign in, and you know, it's a really easy process to be able to sign in. You can see because I've signed in, I've been able to go straight in. And we went through this today. You know, we've got a a number of deals. We've got this London residential opportunity. This actually closed a couple of months ago, about 2 months ago. Just before we closed the deal, we actually realized that one of the great exit strategies would be to have 3 separate mortgages and have 3 separate titles, so that we can actually sell this to a homeowner one day. It'll have a big impact on the exit and on the returns. And so it's delayed. Unfortunately, nothing in England happens fast. It delayed the transfer, or as they call it, their settlement. And actually, we're now closing next week, and we put pressure on everyone to make sure the money's in the account. All the money's been moved to the escrow account with the attorneys. And there's one investor that committed $20,000, and unfortunately has just not been able to come to the party, something about tax clearance, etc. So it presents a unique opportunity for someone that wants to get involved in London residential at the very last hurdle. We've got a couple of slots. We've got 5 $1,000 slots. We've got one $5,000 slot, and we've got one $10,000 slot. But it is first come, first serve. If someone takes down the $20,000 slot, then so be it. We will close next week no matter what. If needs be, we'll just put in our own capital to close it out, because it's a great deal and we want to get it closed now. We've got Medical 24 and Medical 26. Medical 24 is in Atlanta, a great deal in Atlanta, again, where we bought the buildings 5 years ago. Everyone, wants to have a liquidity event. So every 5 years we have a liquidity event. More than 70 or 80% of people are actually staying in the deal. We're putting together with a couple of other buildings. And when I say we, our partners, Offshore, are doing this. And what this allows is people to have a liquidity event, but it also allows people that want to stay in the deal to be able to stay on the deal. And the good news is it allows investors to be able to get into the deal. And we're about to sign, or again, our partners are about to sign some longer term leases, which will, significantly increase the value. In terms of Medical 26, this is in Texas. It's a great opportunity. It's a value play where it's actually an office block that they're wanting to turn into medical. Again, you can read all about it. And then the last one, and if you want all the details, Lyndon and I spent the best part of an hour today discussing all the deals. And as I said, Lee can send you the recording in terms of where we're at. And then the last one is the RB Care Homes. We've launched a new care home. I love care homes. I love medical. I explained that a lot at lunchtime. And what I love most about this is it's a 10% cash on cash return guaranteed in the UK in pounds. And very resilient. Your tenant is the government, and it's aged care. People never leave. So it's a very competitive solution for someone to invest in. These guys have a long track record. They've been doing it for nearly 20 years. They've got 17 aged care facilities already under management. And the good news is, if you're in South Africa, they are going to be at our offshore investor breakfast next week. And so I highly recommend that you come along. If you're going to be at our wealth weekend, they are going to be at our wealth weekend as well. I always believe it's a fantastic opportunity to come and meet the partners, shake their hands, and get to know them, look them in the eye, and really get a sense of who you're dealing with. So that's our current deals. And if you're interested in going into those in more detail, you can either go on the platform and read all about it, or you can watch the webinar from lunchtime. In terms of the updated UX, you might see that the look and feel of the platform, there's been some updates and some constant involvement. And we're really excited to be bringing the new digital global wallets soon as well, in terms of we're in the final stages before we actually execute and implement on that. And then in terms of just the investor breakfast, we've got the investor breakfast for those that are in South Africa next week. And again, it's really exciting. You can see the link that is there. We're going to be going, I'll talk about it later after the webinar, after I've shared quite a lot of value. But because it's WealthE Wednesday, we do have a unique opportunity. We are doing a 2-for-1 special today, and Lee will actually put in the link. So she'll put in the web link. You can see the link here, and you literally go in, and there are some codes. So if you're wanting to do a silver ticket, it's WW Silver. If you're wanting to do a gold ticket, it's WW Gold, and that'll actually get you 2-for-1. So every WealthE Wednesday, we try and do something unique to add value. And so today, this is only for today. It will close at midnight tonight GMT time. So, don't wake up tomorrow morning. It won't be open tomorrow. It is a WealthE Wednesday special. And then for the Wealth Weekend and the Wealth Masterclass, this is something really exciting. I'm going to go into this in more detail later. But Hilda Lunderstedt is an extremely wealthy and successful entrepreneur. And she's going to take people through a day-and-a-half course over the weekend around their mindset, around setting themselves up for success, and ultimately helping them walk away with a plan going into 2020. Now, again, this is for our wealth partners, it's for our VIPs, and anyone that is part of the inner circle, actually just for today, will equally have the opportunity for a 2-for-1 special. Now, there is no code for this, because if you're part of the inner circle, it'll be in the inner circle WhatsApp group or the inner circle Facebook page. And I'll talk about it again after this webinar in more detail. But if you need to log off or something, make sure that you reach out to Lee and get the codes so that you can partake in the 2-for-1. So without further ado, I want to get into the theme for tonight, which is the 12 lessons that wealthy people are taught that the 99% are not. Now, before we do, and before I share this with you, can anyone give me some lessons that they think would qualify for the top 12 lessons? What do you think would you put in there? Give it some thought. I'd like to know from you what you think are some lessons that people would put in. And I might or might not announce them, because I'm going to see what people are thinking. I'm doing this on purpose because I don't want to spoon feed you. And what's interesting for me is I want you to use your brains. Then I'm going to give you the 12 lessons. And again, these aren't necessarily 100% accurate. These are my opinion. So, but it'll be fascinating to see what people's thought processes are. So come on, let's use those brains and let's type what you think one of the 12 lessons should be from your perspective. So I can see them coming through thick and fast. And I think I'm actually going to keep my mouth shut on what they say. I'll go through the 12 lessons and then I'll see if there's ones that I've missed out that we should be adding, or whether they've been dealt with. So if there's anyone else, there's a lot of you on this webinar from all over the world, and I'd love to know your thoughts. For those of you that are sitting passive, if you know me well enough on a webinar, the more passive you are, the more passive I'll become, and I might just fall asleep. Or we can actually have some fun and engage and use our brains. Okay, so let's rock and roll. These are the 12. Focus on income producing assets. Don't lose money. Asymmetric risk reward. Tax efficiency. Diversification. The fundamentals of investment. You can have everything you want in life. Appreciation is key to happiness. Your mind creates your destiny. Chaos is your best friend. To risk nothing is to risk everything, and be constantly learning. And so, Lee, if you're comfortable, we've got the wealth code, and we've got a little wealth code here that I can go and share with people. Oh, where's it gone now? My wealth code has disappeared. Hang on 2 seconds. I need to find my wealth code. Where's it gone? Right. That's an interesting thing for me. I had it open and now it's disappeared. That's why it's on the wrong screen. So we got the wealth code, and on the back of it, it's got a little poem, which is the one I love most, about the credit that belongs to the person that's actually in the arena. And Lee, I don't know what you're thinking, but I've given the 12 things, so we can go home now. Is that not correct? And people aren't really using their brains here, so the way I see it, we might as well all just shut it up and go to bed. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I don't think you're getting off that easily this Wealthy Wednesday. I think you need to use your brain a little bit more in your words and delve into each of those a little bit deeper.
So anyone that wants this wealth code that is on this webinar, it won't be available to people that are watching the recording. That's the benefit of turning up. It's generally only available to people that are on our inner circle. But for anyone that is live here tonight, if you just type in their wealth code, then we'll be able to share it. And actually later, I think I can share a file on here, and I'll just share the file so that you can actually print it. Now, the reason it's like this is that what you do is you go to a company, company like Postnet, you print it, you put it back to front, and then you actually laminate it, and it's the size of a credit card, and you can put it in your wallet. So I keep one in my wallet, and you'll be amazed how beautiful it is to be able to read this and remind yourself of these different points. And then equally, you know, sometimes when you're having a tough time, to be able to read this poem. I just want to read this poem quickly before we go into these 12 things. The credit belongs to the person who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasm, the great devotions, and spends himself and herself or himself in a worthy cause, who at best in the end knows high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the great twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. I challenge you. We've got a 2-for-1 special for the breakfast. We've got a 2-for-1 special for the wealth weekend. And you know, Hilda said something 2 weeks ago that I loved. She said, if you want to be successful, you need to have the right community. You know, and that's exactly what our Wealth Inner Circle is all about. That's exactly what our Global Wealth Partners are all about. That's exactly what our Wealth Weekend is all about. You need to have the right team. Next week, we've got our partners coming out. You can literally meet them face to face. And then most importantly, as you said, you need to show up. So well done to everyone that's online tonight, because you've shown up. If you are watching the recording, this poem by Theodore Roosevelt is my challenge to you to show up next week. And Lee will figure out a way. Please remind me later to share it with everyone that's on this call. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to do that because it'll take me a bit of time. Okay, let's get into the 12 lessons. So some of you have heard the story before, some of you haven't. And the first one, and probably the most important one for me, is focus on income generating assets. Now, this is a picture of me and my first house that I bought in London. It was back in 2002. We just had September the 11th. And all my friends said, whatever you do, don't buy a house right now, because England's going to war with Afghanistan, oil prices are going to go up, inflation's going to go up, interest rates are going to go up, and you're going to go bankrupt. And what was really interesting is that my mates and I bought it together. Just by the way, every property I've ever bought, I've bought with a friend and or a partner. And he found, you know, we walked the streets, we looked at a lot of property. Dolph DeRoos says you have to look at 100 properties. And we found one up on the hill. It was this beautiful pad, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, bachelor pad. You know, would have been great for picking up girlfriends. But I said to my friend, look, you know, we can buy this house, which was a terraced house in Wimbledon. And I said, we can convert it. We can put a conservatory onto it. By putting a conservatory onto it, we turned a 3-bedroom house into a 5-bedroom house. We lived in the house. And I said, listen, so we'll take up 2 of the rooms, but we can rent out 3 of the rooms. And it's basically an income producing asset. And since the day we bought that property, this property has paid us a cash flow, a net passive income cash flow of more than £1,000 per month. And this is a classic example of income generating properties, basically. And right through the crash, you know, what's interesting is that it did finally crash the market in 2008, 2009. Most of my friends went and bought sexy apartments in 2007, by the way. So again, they're thinking with their ego, they're thinking about capital growth, they're not thinking about income. And what was really interesting is that when we had the middle of the crash, interest rates actually dropped and my mortgage went down, and so my passive income went up. It's really interesting to see how these things are counter-cyclical. Another good example is that, you know, I've been buying and helping people invest in property since 1999, but in 2009, 10 years later, I finally found 2 very wealthy people, and they were buying medical centers. And I said, why medical centers? And they said, well, Scott, think about it. No matter what happens in the global economy, people need doctors. Secondly, doctors never leave their premises. And thirdly, you know, doctors are very good at being doctors, but they're not good accountants. And so they sign good term, long-term leases. I remember sitting there and thinking, that is an absolute no-brainer. And so I wanted to participate in investing in medical. It took us nearly 5 years, actually. In fact, it took us 5 years. So that's what you call persistence. To finally find our first medical deal that we did on the platform back in 2014. And to be honest, since I've been investing in medical and aged care, I've quite frankly never looked back. You know, between London residential, medical, aged care, etc., they're just such solid investment classes. And it's all about income. And what the last part of that story, which is important, is that when we were wanting to invest in America, I went over in 2010. You know, whenever there's a crash, there's opportunity. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. I went over in 2010. I went back in 2012. And from 2012, I went over 4 or 5 times every single year. And I asked the partners, when we found good quality partners we could trust in the medical sector, I said, how are you, how did you get impacted when we had the crash? And they said, well, you could argue our capital values might have gone down, but we didn't lose a single tenant. And so we just consistently got income. And, if you take an example, that Danny Craig, or sorry, RB Care Homes opportunity, where it's aged care in England or medical in America, they are economically resilient. They consistently pay income even during bad times, and that's what I want to look at. So number one, income producing assets, and this is a good example of an opportunity that's available right now. It's a 10% cash on cash return in pounds. Now, just to be clear, that's not a yield. That's not including capital growth. That's not including rand devaluation or any other devaluation. That is a net cash on cash return in your pocket. That means if you invest $1,000, you'll get $100 per year, which means you'll get $25 per quarter. And that is, quite frankly, unheard of unless you go into these niche markets. Number two, Warren Buffett says, don't lose money. Rule number one from Warren Buffett, never lose money. Rule number two, don't forget rule number one. And what's really interesting for me is that most middle class and professional people chase capital growth. And so they're very susceptible to the market's ups and downs. It was interesting in 2009, Peter Fenstra, that's a US dollar, very wealthy US dollar millionaire, probably billionaire. And he said to me, even a turkey can fly in a hurricane. And I don't know, Lee, if you've ever heard that, but for me, it's like one of the most amazing statements, because anyone thinks they can make money when the market's rising. But when the market turns, that's when you find the people that have the experience and the properties that make sense and the partners that make sense. And that's where you need to look and do the due diligence around the quality of the partners, the track record of the partners. Have they been able to deliver not only in good times, but in bad times? Because that really limits the downside of losing money. And, investing in new developments, investing in a new apartment building, a new house, those are recipes for losing money, because when the market turns, that's when you lose money. And if you don't think the market's going to turn, at some point, because markets are cyclical, it's like betting against winter. I'm going to repeat that. If you don't think that markets are going to turn, it's like betting against winter. And so if you want to stick to rule number two and don't lose money, make sure that you have the right fundamentals right. Number three, asymmetric risk reward. Anyone want to give me a breakdown of what this is? Asymmetric risk reward. I always like to ask this question because I always get very interesting feedback. What is asymmetric risk reward? So much easier when you're in a room and I can actually see people's faces. So for me, asymmetric risk reward, most people have been taught that the higher the risk, the higher the reward. And so if you take this graph here, what we've all been taught by the financial industry is that normally the higher the risk, the higher the reward. So you'd be in this top quadrant. But actually, asymmetric risk reward is the opposite. You have lower risk and higher reward. So you're in this quadrant. Okay. And it's really important. So well done to Heidi. It's very important that you're looking at getting high reward and low risk. Now, as an example, we went through this at lunchtime today, where on our platform, every single deal has an investment risk category. Now, it doesn't quite line up with the graph on the left. I get that, because you can see returns on the left and risks on the bottom. So anyway, it is what it is. But you can see here that as the risk increases, the risk at the bottom, and the return increases, you want to basically play in this segment here, which is where there's low risk and higher returns. And that's where, we like to go for sort of core plus type opportunities, because, core opportunities are sometimes low risk, low return. And so you're looking at core plus and value add. And then as you go to opportunistic, you are going into that top right corner, which is sort of high risk, high reward. And so it's always about looking for asymmetric risk reward and really trying to find, as Heidi said it, high reward and low risk. The fourth one is tax efficiency. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try and sound like an expert when it comes to tax. In fact, I've set up 4 offshore structures during my time, and one of the things my uncle always taught me was that before you go wasting money on structures, make sure you're making a profit first. And the other thing is sometimes paying tax is a wonderful problem because it means you're making money. But saying that, the most successful people in the world and the most wealthy people in the world do have family offices and financial planners and accountants and everything else, because it's not illegal. In fact, the head of the American IRS, which is the Internal Revenue Services, which is the tax office in America, said it is your duty to actually make sure that you're paying the right amount of tax. And it's the middle class and professionals that are naive and end up just paying what they're told. And that's the taxes most people are paying. And generally, if you go and pay for a professional's time, you can actually find out the taxes and the difference. Now, I want to give you a real life story. I've shown you that picture of that house that we bought back in 2002. And it was really interesting because back then in England in '99, you could work as a contractor, completely legal, and you could pay a lot less tax because you would work through a company. And my mates used to give me a lot of trouble for it because they were all just getting getting a job and paying their national insurance and paying their PAYE or whatever they call it in England. And I was working through a company. Now I had more risk because they could fire me. I didn't have any sort of employment status. I didn't get paid holidays, et cetera, et cetera. However, I paid quite a big difference in terms of tax. And if you ask where I got the deposit from to pay for that house back in 2002, I was 24 years old. It was this. This was the difference between me and my friends in terms of the money I could save based on tax. And I paid a professional to do it properly and to put my tax returns in and did it all above board every single year. But that's what tax efficiency means. Now, I own that property and it's nearly going on 20 years now. Well, it's 18 years. It'll be 20 years in 2022. How much value is that property worth to me now? And how much was that tax efficiency worth to me now compared to my friends that just paid tax and don't have any property in London? Is it starting to sink home? Number 5, diversification across and within assets, markets, currencies, and time. So this is a really interesting one because most people understand the whole logic of diversity. And we spoke last week with Garth Wellman. He's going to be at the breakfast and at the Wealth Weekend. And he actually helps, he's a family office. He helps 85 of the wealthiest people in South Africa and America to actually look after their money. And we spoke about diversity, and he had some great things to say. If you just diversify in a shotgun approach, then you're just wasting time. You're actually just throwing darts at a dartboard. But what is really important is that you do diversify with a strategy, and you diversify across asset classes. So you don't, if you've got all your property tied up in the stock market, you're in deep trouble basically if there's a correction in the stock market. If you've got all your money tied up in property funds or REITs, real estate investment trusts, and the stock market, you're also in real trouble because REITs, real estate investment trusts, and property funds have a higher than 70% correlation to the stock market. And so it is pretty much the same and tracks the stock market. And that's why you need to be able to invest in direct property. You need to diversify within asset classes. So if you're just investing in medical buildings with one partner, it's crazy. If something goes wrong with that partner, it's a massive problem. You need to diversify across different sectors, different asset classes, different types of buildings. Medical's one type, aged care is another type, industrial, office, London residential as an example. And then you also need to diversify across markets and currencies. It's amazing. People come to me and they go, I only do America. 10 years ago, it was I only do England. 5-7 years ago, it was I only do Australia. Doesn't make sense to me. There's a good time to invest in a market, and there's a bad time to invest in a market. And I understand it's a huge amount of admin to go and buy and set up offshore structures and bank accounts and tax. But you've got Migrate now. You don't have to hassle about that. You can just do it all, and you can diversify across the markets and currencies easy. And then diversify across time. And this one's important. You can get into short-term deals, you can get into longer-term deals, but you want to be diversified across all the different areas. And I love this saying by Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is one of the wealthiest people in the world. Tony Robbins wrote this book, which I'd highly recommend, called Unshakable. He actually wrote the book Money Master the Game, which was much longer originally, and then he brought out Unshakable, which was much shorter. And Tony Robbins is one of the best business coaches in the world, life coaches. And he went to 50 of the top wealthiest people in the world. And what he's very good at decoding the patterns. And from that, he wrote this book. And one of them was Ray Dalio. Now, Ray Dalio runs the biggest hedge fund in the world. You know, it's worth 160 billion. He's a billionaire a couple of times over. And Ray Dalio said, if you want to get wealthy, it's really easy. All you need is 15 uncorrelated bets with an array of attractive assets that don't move in tandem, reduce the risk by 80%, and the risk return ratio increases by a factor of 5. And people always look at me, and I always laugh at them when I'm in a live room, and I say, look, you pretty much got it now, I can go home. And what's really interesting, I always ask them to, you know, talk with their partner about it. But when you look at it, it's actually not that complicated. All it's saying is you need to make 15 uncorrelated investments. You need to make 15 investments which are not tied together in attractive assets, and ultimately they don't move in tandem. If you do that, okay, make 15 investments in attractive assets that don't move in tandem, you will reduce the risk by 80%, and you'll increase your risk return ratio by a factor of 5. Now, 10 years ago, that was impossible. Today, with technology, it is very possible. You can invest in different asset classes, different currencies, different markets. You can invest in the stock market. You can invest in property. You can invest in cryptocurrency. I could go on and on and on. And you can all do it using technology with small amounts of money, and you can learn. So in my opinion, no one has an excuse anymore not to be able to do this. Number 6, the fundamentals of investment, real estate, and business don't change. So the story I've got for you here, and sorry, I just want to take a quick sip of water here. I've been talking all day. The story I've got for you here is that it was really interesting. Back in '99, you know, the internet had run for about 5 or 6 years. Everyone was like, this is it, business has changed. The fundamentals of business have changed. And Warren Buffett and other people like Warren Buffett said, no, they haven't. The fundamentals of business don't change. Technology might change, fads might change, but the fundamentals don't change. And sure as anything, you know, they had the dot-com boom bust. There was a correction. It didn't mean the internet was broken. There are great companies out there like Google, Facebook, Amazon, eBay, Alibaba. I could go on and on and on, that have built incredibly valuable businesses, and more recently, newer companies. But they built on the fundamentals of business. You know, when it comes to investing, and you look at the property market, you know, back in the 2000s, the market was rising. The governments were, you know, pumping in cheap debt. And because of that, there was massive capital growth. In America, they had those ninja loans, which was no income, no job, no asset. I mean, someone literally said all you had to do was breathe into a mirror, and if it missed it up, then they would give you a mortgage. And people went, no, times have changed. We don't need to have, you know, stability. We don't need to have income in the investment. You don't worry. Like, there was a guy running around South Africa where you have a double trust structure, and don't worry, you borrow from Peter to rob Paul, and you don't tell the banks what's going on, and you're just going to keep getting capital growth, and then that capital growth, you're going to pay back your mortgage because you're underwater. But don't worry, times have changed. And I'm sorry to say this, and I might get into trouble for this, but it's all bullshit because the fundamentals don't change. And every single time that people go against the fundamentals, it's like going against the laws of nature. It's like trying to pretend that gravity doesn't exist. And when you do, you get hurt. And so I've got the point here. And if you go through to our investor test, now the investor test is if you go out and you actually do the whole investor test, you get the investor report. And I'm not going to talk to you about it tonight, but there's a whole bunch of things here: your life cycle, your freedom and your fun, your passive income, your wealth spectrum. If you haven't done this, you know, I'd highly recommend you do this, because no matter where you are in the wealth spectrum, in your wealth journey, whether you're a rank beginner or highly sophisticated, every single one of us is on a journey. And if you want the link to the investor test, just type in the investor test. You can see it's based on the laws of nature, the I Ching, and the fundamentals of investing. And there's 5 main pillars, and I'm not going to go through all those pillars tonight. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go to number 1, which is the financial quotient, your FQ. And that's all about the financial investment in real estate, and it's around the fundamentals. And you can see here that you've got the wealth spectrum. And as you go up the wealth spectrum, you get more and more sophisticated in terms of understanding those fundamentals. And so, you know, there's questions like, are you financially prepared for retirement? Do you know how true global wealth is generated? Are you a global citizen? And then there's the, you know, all around collaborative investing, collaborative smart investing, what you need to do and how you need to do it. And what's quite important, have I missed one yet? No, I haven't. Sorry. This is all around collaborative smart investing. And then it goes into the 7 laws of investing. And it's really interesting. Someone said education, investing in yourself. Actually, Warren Buffett, I saw something just last week. He said the best investment in the world is investing in yourself. So it's not the stock market, it's not property, it's not bonds or treasuries or whatever. It's investing in yourself. Law number 2 is, sorry, where did I miss 2? Do your homework and take responsibility. Law number 3 is buy from a motivated seller. Law number 4 is build relationships. Law number 5 is look at cash flow income. Law number 6 is portfolio investing. And law number 7 is growing a globally diversified portfolio. So you can see there's a whole bunch of fundamentals here, a wealth audit, different ways to be able to grow and learn. And then what's important is, depending on where you are in your investor test, there's a whole bunch of things you can do to improve your financial, your partnership, and your real estate in terms of those fundamentals. So I don't have time tonight. I could spend an entire webinar just going through the fundamentals of investing. But the one thing I will tell you is that I don't believe in decades and centuries, the fundamentals have not changed. It's why books like Think and Grow Rich and the richest person in Babylon and all of these things stand the test of time, because the fundamentals don't change. And again, technology might change, but the fundamentals don't change. Remember that technology is not a fix-all, because the fundamentals don't change. It's a really important component. Number 7, it's one of the ones that I've already spoken about tonight. You can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And the question I'm asking is, are you on this webinar just because you want to learn? What are you doing to grow others? What are you doing to add value to others? Maybe you could go out and share. We did all those webinars last month, and I'm sure Lee can put in the links to them. Why don't you go and share them with others? What about the 2-for-1 special? I had this great experience in 2002 or 2003, I think it was. And a friend of mine got hold of me and said, what are you doing on Saturday? And I said, well, I'm watching South Africa play Ireland. Now, if you know me well enough, you'll know I love rugby. And so, test match day is a big day for me. And he said, no, you're not. And I said, why not? And he said, well, we're going to go to a property seminar together. I was like, a property seminar on a Saturday? You're flipping crazy. There's rugby on. And he said, no, you've got to come. This is amazing. And so I came along, and the guy's name was Hun Australia, and I actually really enjoyed it. And many of the principles that I've learned and invested in and taught others have come from Hun Australia. But what was interesting is he had a 2-for-1 special. And what ended up happening is my mate got me to come along, because that, halved the price for him and added value to me. And it's still to this day adding value to me. And that's a classic example. Maybe go out tonight and find someone who can come along with you and get you half-price ticket to either the breakfast or the weekend. Or go and share the content, or invite people to the webinars. It doesn't have to be about money. But what are you doing to add value? And again, I'm going to repeat, you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And if you think that I like sitting up and doing webinars on a Wednesday night, late at night, well, actually I do, to be honest. But if people are, it sounds too good to be true again, why are you doing it? This is the reason we're doing it. We want to add value to more people. The more people we can add value to, the more we'll grow our own ability and our own wealth. It's a law of nature. Number 8, appreciation is key to happiness. Now, this one's an interesting one, and I found this on the internet today. The pursuit of happiness. Happiness is not having what you want, it's wanting what you have. I want to tell you a good story here, and I could talk a lot about boats. I love boats. I love visualizing your future. I've got this amazing story where I visualized the future. I found a picture of a boat I wanted. I put it up on my desktop, and at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, I needed to buy a boat, and the guy pretty much had the only boat available for me to buy unless I wanted to wait 4 months. And so I said, right, I'll take it. And blow me down, it was exactly the same as the color scheme of the boat that I found on Google many months before. So I'm a big believer in the fact that you can create your future. But then what I found is I'm always pushing. The moment I get the boat, I wanted another boat. I wanted a bigger boat. I wanted more success. And that's just been my driving force. And then what I learned in 2016, actually, I went to a thing called Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins. And one of my biggest takeaways was appreciation is key to happiness, and actually just enjoying what you have. And I literally came back from that event, and now when I drive on my boat, rather than looking at other boats and thinking, wow, it'd be nice to have a boat like that, or wow, that's a nice boat, I just appreciate the boat I have. And every single day I do an exercise called priming. And if you want me to share the priming thing, stay on later, if you want me to share the wealth code, if you want me to share the priming, because I'm just going to figure out how to share these files with you. I will share them on the inner circle. So anyone that's part of the inner circle, I'll put them on the inner circle tonight so that you've got them. But I do this prime every single morning. It's 20 minutes long, and it starts off with a 3-minute breathing exercise, and then it's 3 minutes of gratitude. Every single day, every single morning, I go through 7 days a week, and I've done it for 3 years in a row, 365 days of a year. No excuses, not on Christmas, not when you've got a hangover on the 1st of January. No excuses ever. I do 3 minutes of breathing, 3 minutes of gratitude. What am I grateful for? Where do I live? My family, my life, the team. You'll be surprised how often Lee probably doesn't know this. I'm grateful for my team, the opportunity, the purpose, the value we're adding. You know, today actually was that we've got live webinars and we can add value to people, etc., etc., etc. Then it's 3 minutes of energy, imagining energy flow through your body, and then it's 3 minutes of your goals, and then it's like 6 or 7 minutes of great music, and that's my prime, and I do that every single day. And for me, this appreciation thing, and I learned such a beautiful trick from Lyndon Booth, one of our business partners. At dinner every night, he actually asks his family, what are you grateful for? And ever since then, I've been doing it with my son and asking him, what are you grateful for? Every single day. And it's amazing. At a very young age, they start to learn that you know, they can appreciate what they have. It's not about getting, it's about what they already have, which is so important. Number 9, your mind nurtures your destiny and your life. So nurture it. You know, Tony Robbins talks about the fact that success, 80% of success is psychology and only 20% is execution. Now, if that's the case, 80% is in your psychology. So I did an exercise with someone today. I actually went to a Tony Robbins event in September, and I did leadership mastery, and you get these massive books. I presume you can see it on the webcam. So I went to leadership mastery, and I did an exercise with someone today. They were wanting to give up an addiction. And one of the things that you need to do is that it all starts with the state. So if you're in a good state, now do me a favor, just stand up. So wherever you are in the world, just stand up. Clench your fist like this, then open and relax. Shake your body out, move your arms up and down, reach down and touch your toes. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Now I can't see you, so I'm presuming you're standing up, and I'm not standing up because I'm continuing to look in the camera for you. And just feel how your energy can change. Like literally, there's 3 ways to change your state. Number 1 is your physiology. So what you've just done, just movement. You can literally move. I've got a power move where I literally do this. I literally just go, yes, and it's my power move, and literally straight away, you know, I get in the zone. And then it's about your focus. You know, what you focus on is what you get. Tony Robbins has a lovely story where every 100 feet or 30 meters, there's generally a street pole. And yet, when people have a blowout, like 99% of people hit the pole, because they literally go, as soon as they have the blowout, they look at the pole and go, I don't want to hit the pole, 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 and boom, they go straight into the pole. And the question is, if you focus on the gap, you go straight through it. In business, it happens all the time. I don't want to go bankrupt, I don't want to go bankrupt, I don't want this bad thing to happen, blah, blah, blah. Boom, straight into the pole. What you focus on is what you get. And then the language, you know, the exercise I was doing today, the guy was like, oh, you know, I'm a this and I'm a that. What language are you using? Are you being positive? Like, you don't have to, as Tony Robbins says, you don't have to go into the bushes and say, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds. There might be weeds. Pull out the weeds, no problem. But what about the language you're using? So it all starts with your state. If you want to get yourself in a good place, there's only one person in the world who can do it, and that's you. And it's your state, and they call this the triad. It's your physiology, your focus, and your language. And I know, Lee, you've asked me to go into, for the inner circle, we're going to be doing 2 deep exercises on everything I learned at Leadership Mastery, which we'll be doing for the inner circle at the end of November, beginning of December. The next thing is they call this the success cycle. So it starts with your belief. And what's really interesting is that if you've got big belief, then it's going to grow into potential. If you believe you've got potential, you're going to take action. And if you take action, you're going to get results. Now, if you've got big belief, you're going to think you've got big potential. You're going to take big action. You're going to get big results. You're going to get bigger belief. You're going to have more potential. You're going to take big action. You're going to get more results. And it's an upward spiral. If it's the other way around, if you've got low belief, you know, then you're going to have low potential. You're going to take low or no action. and you're going to get no results. Now, a good example, someone might have signed up to this webinar, but the belief is they can't be wealthy, or the belief is not for me, it's for someone else, or money is only for people with money, or money doesn't grow on trees, or any of the other, sorry to say, crap that we've been taught in our lives. And so they're going to probably take no action. They probably won't come to the breakfast, or they won't take advantage of WealthE Wednesday, or they, whatever, they won't come to the weekend, or quite frankly, they won't do anything. And then they're going to get no results. And 6 months from now, they're going to be, oh shit, life's bad and I can't pay the bills and there's more money, there's more month than money at the end of the month, and it's a downward spiral. And how do you solve that? Starts with your state. Get your state pumps, you can just do it, boom. Physiology, focus, language, get the belief, take action. With that, your potential will grow, you'll get results, and it's an upward spiral. You get to choose the life you want. And this is something that Lee, I'm probably going to get into trouble with because there's been a few swear words on this webinar already, but this is something I love and I share this with people all the time. It's the definition of unfuckwithable. Now, this is actually in the dictionary, so I don't know if it's a swear word, but it's when you are truly at peace. Pardon?
It's definitely a mouthful. Whether it's a swear word or not, it's definitely a mouthful.
Well, I've got them printed all over my house because it's an adjective, and it's when you're truly at peace and in touch with yourself, and nothing anyone says or does bothers you, and no negativity or drama can touch you. How beautiful is that? Most people want to walk around the world and they don't want people to irritate them, they don't want to get a bad phone call, they don't want bad news, whatever, but we all get it, it's life. And yet if you're unfuckwithable, you decide, I'm going to live in a beautiful state, and I'm not going to let external things, be they people or circumstances, affect me. And these are just some of the ways that you can nurture your mind that ultimately will allow you to control your destiny and your life, and how you can nurture it. And one of the things that I would highly recommend in terms of nurturing is meditation and or doing this prime. If you like me and where meditation is extremely difficult, it is so important to do something like a prime every single day. It's about setting yourself up for success. It's about the rituals. And if you're part of the inner circle, I'll share the recording for the prime, and I highly recommend that you do it. We've also done the 21-day abundance challenge with Deepak Chakra. I would highly recommend you do that. There are so many free things out there to take control of your life and your mind. Number 10, chaos is your best friend. In chaos, there's opportunity. So something I learned a long time ago is that whenever there's chaos, there's opportunity. And it was interesting because there's sayings like, when there's blood on the streets, it's a good opportunity. Warren Buffett says when investors are excited, be nervous, and when they're nervous, be excited, something along those lines. And what I learned is that, I found this graph back in early 2000. Okay, so before I invested in England. And I went to a property course, and it was actually in London, and it was this graph the guy was showing. And what he was basically showing was, because there was a market correction around 2000, 2001, because you had the dot-com boom bust, you had the Iraq war, England going to war with Afghanistan. And what he showed is that, in any cycle, they go up and they go down, but if you buy a good property, it tends to rise ongoing, both the income and the capital growth. And what he said is that in the time of chaos is that everyone focuses just on this. And so, people buy here and they sell here and they panic. And actually what you've got to do is have perspective and be able to pull back and look at the overall graph. And, to give you another story of this, in 2009, there was an opportunity in London, in Wimbledon, where we could buy 48 units. Now, they were retailing for £320,000 each, and we could buy them for £160,000, so 50% of the value. They were fully furnished, they were fully tenanted, and it had a 12% cash-on-cash return. And the only problem I had was that I needed £10 million. I ran around, I spoke to all our investors, we had 2,500 investors. The problem is everyone was focusing on this. Everyone was focusing on the end of the world. And I kept saying, and let's go to the laws we've already discussed tonight. I kept saying, guys, but it's got a 12% cash-on-cash return. It's in Wimbledon. No matter what happens in the world, people are going to want to live in Wimbledon. And it's good quality building, close to the station, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we didn't do the deal. I tried to buy one unit, but it didn't work. And that's why we have the pain. And the pain created wealth migrate, which in chaos had created an opportunity, I suppose, for everybody. And what's really interesting is those properties today are probably close to £1 million per property. I remember we could have bought them for £160,000, and they would have paid us that 12% cash on cash all the way through. It's an absolute no-brainer. But what happens is the moment you get into chaos, people get scared. And so you got to start training your brain that when there's chaos, there's opportunity. And like me in 2009, and you know why I went to America in 2010 is because when there's chaos, there's opportunity. And we consistently have a track record of finding opportunity within the chaos. In fact, I love chaos. When the market's in chaos, it's a great time. And I think it's coming, you know, in terms of where we're going, and I look forward to it. What about this one? To risk nothing is to risk everything. It's another one that I teach my son all the time. You know, the greatest risk in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing does nothing, has nothing, is nothing, and becomes nothing. You know, there's that saying, the safest place in the world is in the graveyard, you know, because there's no risks. You're dead. And yet the only way to grow is to take chances. And, you know, when you look at the metaphor of learning to walk, when you learn to walk, was there risks? Did you fall over? Of course you did. You stood up, you fell over. You stood up, you fell over. You stood up, you fell over, but eventually you learned to walk. When you look at investing, whether it's investing in property, whether it's investing in stock market, investing internationally, getting into commercial, trusting Wealth Migrate platform, coming to an event, there's risk. It's scary. How do you trust us? How do you trust the partners? Well, the other side of that equation is to risk nothing is to risk everything, because you might leave your money under a mattress, or you might not come and learn, and you'll never actually grow. And I want to give you two great stories of that. This is a picture of me in 2010. This is my friend Andrew Ranston and Tony Robbins. And I'd grown my business. I started in 2004. And in 2009, I couldn't work any harder. You heard about how the market had changed. It was very, very difficult in terms of the market. And my strategy in life was always just to work harder. And on the rugby pitch, I was fitter than the guy next to me. I wasn't necessarily the most talented. At school, university, I just worked harder than everyone else. And in business, I just worked harder. That was my strategy. And yet the problem is, as a business grows, eventually the complexity grows, and you just can't work any harder. And anyway, long story short, in 2010, I heard about Business Mastery. There was only one small challenge. To go to Business Mastery and Business Mastery 2 cost me $50,000 US. So that was the tickets, the flights, the accommodation. The first event was in Las Vegas. The second event was in Fiji. And Tony Robbins is the best in the world, and you pay a fortune for it. And what was really interesting to me is that I paid the money, I went along. My mother thought I was absolutely mad. And I met someone when I was at the event, and it wasn't even Tony Robbins, it was someone else. And they do this thing called the Platinum Partners, where they go on holiday 4 times a year together, and they spend $30,000 4 times a year, and that doesn't include flights to get there. And I remember turning to the guy and going, wow, that's just incredible. I said, how do you pay for $30,000? And he says, well, I've got to deal with myself. I have to make back $30,000 within 30 days. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I know how to make money. I sell properties, but I only sell properties, you know, that are off plan in those days. And I only get paid in like 2-3 years, sometimes 4 years. But just by asking myself a different question, I re-engineered the entire way that our property system worked, and I got paid up front. And I don't have time tonight to explain to you how to do that, but in 45 days, I made over $45,000. And it completely changed my life, because from at IPS level, I could then hire better people. We grew that company with great people. And then because of that company and the cash flow that company was generating, I was able to start Wealth Migrate. It all started by risking something and being there. And when I look at the value of that $50,000, best $50,000 I've ever spent. Another good example was, you know, I spent a lot of money when I was invited to Necker Island and go and see Richard Branson. I spent 2 weeks with him. I can't tell you what a difference this made in my life. I love putting myself in the room where I'm the poorest, dumbest person, because the only way to grow, and it's very uncomfortable, I'm not going to lie, but the only way to grow is if you're around people that are wealthier than you, people that are more successful than you. And so my question to you is, you know, what are you prepared to risk to get to where you want to get to in life? Because successful people are prepared to risk. It's the metaphor I love is that it's like when you're walking down a flight of stairs. You often don't look down. You just step, and you know that there's a step below you. And that's the metaphor I use in my life. I make decisions. I could never have known I was going to meet that guy in Fiji. I could never have known the people I was going to meet on Neck Island with Richard Branson, but I took the step anyway, and I can't tell you what a difference it's made in my life. And then number 12 is be constantly learning, and this one for me is an amazing one. We've shared so much with you tonight, and there's so many resources that we've got to share with you. We've got the Invest Offshore Summit for those of you that are in South Africa next week. Honestly, if you're in Durban, Cape Town, Johannesburg, or Pretoria, and you're not coming to these events, I actually have to ask myself why. It doesn't make any logical sense to me. I will be sharing with you and going deep for over 2 hours. We're going to have these incredible partners out from England. We've got the ability to immigrate to America or Europe. We've got someone that's coming, from a fixed income product where you can earn 7 to 14% in a fixed income product with good liquidity. And my question is, how could you not want to come and learn from wealthy people like Hilda Lunderstedt that built a business, $300 million, invested all over the world, enabled her to immigrate to America and become a global citizen. And she's going to share with you the tricks. And Garth Wellman, who's going to talk about tax and structuring and portfolio analysis. And it's not going to be raw presentation. It's not going to be lecture style. It's going to be Q&As. It's going to be, talking, like engagement. So, I will be the MC of the event, but bring your questions and come and learn. You're never going to have an opportunity, in my opinion, for such a small amount of money to be able to come and participate and always be learning. And then for those of you who want to go deeper, the breakfasts are going to be the theory, and the weekend is going to be the practical. The breakfasts are going to be the theory, where you'll learn the knowledge, just like when you learned how to do your drivers, your learner's license. But the weekend will be doing your drivers. It'll actually be getting in. It'll be, having the deep debates. It'll be actually leaving with a plan. And, as I said to you, these are things that we've got coming up. And so the question I've got for you is, do you want to do it on your own? A bird flying in a flock can fly 70% further than a bird flying on its own. And yet most of us are trying to fly on our own. Deepak Chopra says that, if someone tries to achieve something on their own, they've got a less than 50% chance of success. If they do it with a business partner, a husband or wife, they've got a 60% chance of success. If they do it with a like-minded group, a peer group, a mastermind, they've got a higher than 70% chance of success. And so this is not my opinion. This is the research that is out there. It's the laws of nature. It's why birds fly together. It's why fish go in shoals. It's why animals go across the plain. And yet, what are you deciding to do in terms of your journey? And that's where Wealth 5.0 comes in. Because for us, it's the new genre. It's about going into the new decade. It's about your impact. It's about creativity and you being able to create value. It's about high touch and who you're collaborating with. It's about high tech and how you can use technology to really enhance it. It's about digital. It's about your problem solving and about your future proofing. And in terms of this October series, we've done a whole series of webinars which are available. You can go to the link. And in terms of the secrets to offshore investment, how to immigrate, learning from Hilda and learning from Garth. And you can go and watch those webinars. They're free. Remember what principle number 1 was, or 2, whatever, Zig Ziglar on. It's there. But go and share it with your friends. It's free. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to come and learn and meet these people, then I highly recommend that you come, to the breakfast. For those of you that want to, do the micro degree, we've got the 8 steps to wealth, where some of the stuff I've touched on tonight, we go a lot deeper, and it's a micro degree. You can learn and go deeper, and you're going to learn all about the investor test and the 5, fundamental pillars upon which it's built and everything else. Now, again, tonight I don't have time for this, and anyone that comes to the breakfast, or is part of the inner circle, we'll give you access to all these different accesses. And so Nelson Mandela says, money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. It's the very first comment in my book, and it's what drives us to do what we're doing. We don't care how much money you make. What we care about is that you have the freedom to make it and create the life so that you can make the choices you want for you and your family. And so, what are you doing to become a global citizen? And are you ready for 2020? We put these events together so that you can come along. We've got actual partners coming out. So when you're talking about the current deals, come and meet them, come and integrate with them, come and learn from them. And if you want to join our inner circle, if you want to be part of a group that is ongoing, it's a 12-month journey. I invite you to come on the inner circle. If you want to be part of the inner circle, just type it in. You get access to our global community. You get access to private webinars, like I'm going to be doing the ones on everything I learned at Leadership Mastery. You get access to the different groups. We've got WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, you know, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much value that we aim to add between our Motivation Mondays and the Wealth Insights and everything else. And then we got the Offshore Investor Breakfast. You know, I've spoken a lot about these. I've spoken about how I'm going to go into a 2-hour session. I've spoken about how Hilda and Garth, we're going to do a whole Q&A session. At lunch, we're going to be actually interviewing and going through the partners and getting to know them. And, you know, that's for people that take the gold tickets. And so silver tickets are people that take the breakfasts. Gold tickets are people that get the breakfast and come to the VIP lunch. And, you know, everyone that comes along is going to get the e-wealth pack, basically, in terms of, you know, it's about $5,000 worth of value, and it's all our resources condensed into a couple of pages. And then for those of you that want to do one-to-ones, I get it, you know, quite often, whether it's myself or Hilda or Garth, people want to sit, particularly very wealthy people, they want to sit, they want to talk about their situation and create a personalized solution. We do have one-to-ones set up with myself, Hilda or Garth, and they're for people that come to the event and take a platinum ticket. And that's where you're going to get the breakfast, you're going to get the lunch, and you're going to get a 1-hour exclusive one-to-one online. So it won't be at the event, it'll be online, either before the event, I've got some tomorrow, and or after the event. And then just in terms of the prices, it's all in dollars. We are, you know, we are a global company. We believe that you need to set yourself up for success, to think like a global citizen. But the good news is that because it's WealthE Wednesday, we only do this type of thing on WealthE Wednesday. It's 2 for 1 just for today. You can literally go to the link and you can put in WW Silver or WW Gold. There's not the option for platinum because my time can't be halved. And you know, you can basically get a 2 for 1 to come to the breakfast next week. And again, to the masterclass, you know, there's going to be 10 different sessions. The Wealth Weekend is an amazing experience where we get together on Friday evening, we leave on Sunday lunchtime. It's so much fun with amazing like-minded people, and Hilda's going to be taking us through this entire session on Saturday and half of Sunday. We'll be leaving at lunchtime on Sunday, and it's all going to be about creating your best life, knowing yourself. Are you thinking big enough? Do you have a millionaire mindset? The Wealth Skill 1, which is about business, entrepreneurship, and creating wealth, future trends, leadership, time management, balancing your life, healthy, happy, and longevity. How do you stop making excuses and set yourself up for success, mastering yourself, and then launching yourself into the future, you know, getting ready. We're about to go into the next decade, getting ready for the next decade. And so if you don't want to stop talking about the theory and you actually want to get into the practical, then I highly recommend you come along to the Wealth Weekend. And for the people that are in the inner circle, there's a 2 for 1 special, and obviously the wealth partners have already got the special basically. Now, for the inner circle, the 2 for 1 special is only today again. Okay, so it's value for the inner circle, but it's only today because we need to finalize the numbers for the weekend. The e-wealth pack is something that we believe is tremendous, tremendous value. You can see here, if I go to the e-wealth pack, you can, oh, sorry, where's it gone? There it is. And you've got access. It's $5,000 worth of value. It's my book. It's the investor test, the micro degrees. It's all the white papers, all the different books that we highly recommend, a whole bunch of resources and everything else that is available. And it's going to be available to anyone that actually comes to the events and or anyone that signs up to the inner circle. They get access to the e-wealth pack. And so I would like to know if anyone has any questions. I know I've given you a huge amount of information, and I understand that it's 10 past 8. And so, Lee, I've gone over a little bit on my time. But if anyone has any questions, and while we're doing the questions, I'm going to ask you a few polls, because what I'd like to do is that the more you engage and let us know what you want, the more we will be able to actually help you. So let's see, who is interested in the Offshore Investor Breakfast, and which city are you interested in? I'm interested, you know, I know that we've got members in 133 countries, so I know people aren't all in South Africa, but for those that are in South Africa, which cities would you be interested in? Let us know. And please vote, even if you say none, because it shows me that you're engaged and that, you know, it takes a lot of energy to share all this stuff. So let's look at, someone said education. I completely agree. just be careful on the type of education. I have an honors degree cum laude. I have a master. In fact, I had to fill this in all in for the regulator yesterday, so I'm not going to be arrogant, but I'm going to give you a few of my qualifications quickly. I have an honors degree cum laude. I have a master's degree cum laude. I have PDP from the Business Graduate School of Business in Cape Town. I have CRS, which is the top qualification for property out of America. I have AIPP, which is the top qualification for international property out of England. I have Singularity University. I have Business Mastery 1 and 2. I have Leadership Mastery. And what's fascinating to me is with all these degrees and things behind my name, no one ever taught me about investing in medical buildings. No one ever taught me about investing in aged care. No one ever taught me many of the principles that I've just shared. So be very careful when you're talking about education that it doesn't necessarily mean degrees. And that's why I don't believe in going on, doing another course or, getting another coach or another mentor and then not doing anything about it or reading another book. It's about learning while doing. And that's why we created the Inner Circle, so that you could learn while doing. If you haven't voted, come on, we need people to vote. I want to see, we're sitting at 50% engagement. I want to get people nice and engaged here. And so, yeah, someone said focus on passive income. You're spot on. So, for me, that one is really important. Surround yourself with people who are successful at what you choose to, what does that say? What you choose to head towards. Fantastic. Completely agree. Find something you love and then really, stick to it. And, I think that is really important. Creativity and embrace change and use technology to your benefit. Yeah, I mean, most people, again, are scared of change. They're scared of risk. And yet, change is an awesome opportunity. And, I think that people have the ability to actually use change. And, Tony Robbins asked a great question when I was on that course years ago. He said, do you think that Richard Branson has bigger or smaller problems than you? I'll ask you the same question. Do you think Richard Branson has bigger or smaller problems than you? So you sit there saying, I don't want problems. And yet, who has bigger problems, Richard Branson or you? And so the question you've got to ask yourself is, surely you want bigger problems. Now, that's a bit of a mind shift. So maybe you should be going out and thinking to yourself, I want bigger problems. How do I create bigger problems? And for those of you who haven't seen, I put up a poll with regards to the Wealth Weekend. I'm interested in what you think around the Wealth Weekend. And maybe you can come to the Wealth Weekend and find yourself some bigger problems. Take on some more purpose, take on some more destiny. Maybe you'll fulfill some more of your potential. I believe that there's greatness inside everybody. How much of your greatness are you tapping into? Now, there's a challenge. What about, okay, so a number of people have asked for the wealth code. A lot of people have asked for the investor test. Point 9 is so important, upward spiral. I really enjoy these webinars. Thank you very much. Can you pop the links to the other webinars? I think Lee's done that. Just by the way, for those of you who are watching the recording, you can actually go, no, it's here. No, it's not here. It's here. So you can actually go, and I don't know why this has got such a long campaign. But anyway, it's I know Lee's put it in. You can see it's Wealth 5.0 webinar series. And you can actually go in, and it's got all the different webinars and the links to the recording. And I did put it in the slideshow. It was earlier on in the slideshow as well. You can go and get all the different things. If you want to go and read up about the events, you can see it's wealthmigrate.online/Wealth 5.0. And if you want to read about the weekend, it's wealthmigrate.online/Masterclass. And then this funny number, which I don't really know why, but 329-40-800. So yeah, I mean, you have the ability to go and get a whole lot more information. Right, info on the Inner Circle. So we will send that out to anyone that's interested in the Inner Circle. Just type in their Inner Circle, and one of the team members will get back to you. The link to your 13th of November event in Cape Town. So Donna, that is again, hopefully I've just shown you that, and it's in the chat box. I will actually, let me go to this page. No, not that page. I want to go to this page. Yeah, there we are. So if you go to that page, you can see there, I'll just leave that while we're doing the questions. You can see the link there, which is to the events. Do not read poll, would love to attend Cape Town, but a bit far from New Zealand. That's quite funny. So Perfect, Heidi. We will try and figure that out. We are going to look at ways to obviously add value to people that are overseas because they can't really attend. Francis, great webinar. Thank you very much. Donna, brilliant. See you there. Right. You can't tell me that I've answered all your questions. I've either confused you to death or overwhelmed you with information. Any questions? And by the way, hopefully we've added some value tonight. I want to ask for some value. If you think how we could reach more people, I am very passionate. We as a team are very passionate. Lee is very passionate. The team has put on these events next week. It takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of energy. People are flying out from England, from America, from Australia. What can we do to let more people know about it? What can we do to add more value? We want to add as much value to as many people. We don't make money by selling tickets. I want to be very clear. If I want to get wealthy making money by selling tickets for $27, it is the stupidest plan on this planet. Okay. All that we're doing, the cost of the breakfast is just covering the physical cost of the actual breakfast because we have to pay for a breakfast. But the question I've got is how do we add more value? If you've got any ideas, pop them in the chat box while we're closing out here, because I'd love to see what people think as to how we can reach more people. Remember, we've been through the 12 lessons that are in the Wealth Code, and one of them is, Zig Ziglar. You can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. So maybe there's a bit of a lesson in there for you and I, where if you can help us figure that out and we can reach more people, maybe you can get whatever you want. Vicky said, enjoyed this webinar and got value. Did my first pledge today. So excited to have started investing. Congratulations, Vicky. Claps and bells and rings and everything else in between. I'm very, very proud of you and really excited for you to join us on the journey, your journey, but a journey that we're doing together, which, I really welcome you on our journey. For us to share info, so please go. One of the things you can do, just by the way, is that if you go to our Facebook group, Wealth Migrate, we've got the events there live, and you can actually say that you're coming and you can share it on your own social media pages, which obviously just gives it a viral nature. So, please do me a favor, and if you're not attending yourself, let others know about it. We really want to add as much value as possible. Okay, I'm going to wrap up. If there's no more questions, I want to remind everyone, Hilda Lunderstedt actually, wrote this manifesto. We want to empower 1 billion people. It's a massive, massive ask. So when you talk about stretch goals, this is a large stretch goal. We want to solve the greatest challenge on the wealth gap. And we created the wealth movement back in 2014. Hilda Lunderstedt wrote our manifesto in 2015. And, this is for you ladies, like, it's such a powerful thing to come and spend time with someone like this. And this manifesto is imagine a world where most or all people are literate, a world where education is par for the course, a world where women are treated as equal, a world where all people have access to investment opportunities. Imagine a world where 6 billion people on the planet who currently live in poverty can live a better life. Imagine that world. At the Wealth Movement, we're aiming to create that world. And for anyone that's actually coming to the breakfast or the weekend, one of the initiatives that we're behind is this young man, Bongi. He did this incredible thing. He's got amazing tenacity. His mother is a policeman. His dad is a security guard, and he had a dream of going to a private school. We crowdfunded it through our community. We put him through a private school. He's been there for 3 years. He's Southwestern District's captain. He's doing incredibly well at school. He works during all his holidays, and he wants to be an electromechanical engineer. I tend to joke with people with the type of persistence he's got, he's probably going to be the next Elon Musk. And so if you are coming to any of the events, and or if you actually want to live overseas and you want to contribute towards his ongoing education, just reach out to us and we can give you the links. But if you are coming to the events, you are not only looking after yourself, but you are making a purposeful impact in someone else's life, and that's what everything that we've discussed tonight is all about. So those are the links. You've got Lee's all these details. Lee, once again, thank you very much for setting up WealthE Wednesday. It's always an exciting day. I love the day so much. You've got the links to the events next week. We invite all of you on the journey to become a global citizen. If you are watching the recording, click on the links below. And yeah, really from our side, we just want to thank you. So that's all from my side, Lee. To everyone that's joined us tonight, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for all the kind comments. I really like the fact that we have added value. Someone's asking for a LinkedIn profile. I don't know if you're talking about my LinkedIn profile or who you are, but it's pretty easy. If you go to Google and you go Scott Picken LinkedIn, I come up top. And if you can't spell my surname, Picken, it's like chicken with P, which I always have a bit of fun with. Okay, I'll reach out to you. I have to look. I want to go further. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you to all. Oh no, Silver College is not working. Donna, don't know what that is all about. But if you, for some reason, there's a problem, Donna, and you want to do the silver code, I'm sure Lee, if we can reach out to Donna and help her, if someone's committed tonight, we'll make sure that they get the discount, if they're prepared to take action today.
Absolutely, Donna. I'll reach out to you privately and assist you with that, so no problem. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been great. Your 12 lessons were definitely inspiring. Scott, thank you very much for sharing and for your energy.
No problem, and I've just realized I've left 2 polls out. So I'm going to find another thing to talk about for 2 minutes just while I give you these last 2 polls. But yeah, it's interesting, these wealth codes. We've actually created codes. So we've got the wealth code, we've got the entrepreneur code, I've got 3 of them. What's the third one? Property code, the wealth code, the sales code, which I did when I've done sales training with companies. And I find these things so valuable to keep in your pocket and in your wallet in terms of where you're at. And if I bring it up again while we're doing that poll, I'm going to reread that thing. Where's it gone now? That poem, I so love that poem. And by the way, this poem, I've actually got it on my, Oh, it's come up funny. Well, it's just come up with my Word document. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You can see the credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself or herself in a worthy cause, who at best in the end knows high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. What did we say number 11 was? To risk everything. To risk nothing is to risk everything. Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the great twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. So my question is, are you living up to that? Is that something that would add a lot of value to you? And for those of you that are ready to invest or looking to pledge or wanting to understand, I'm just interested for the people that are online tonight. We've got so many people online. Which deals are you interested in? I'm always interested to get a take on what people are thinking. And the reason being is that it helps us go out and find, more quality deals in terms of, the opportunity. If you're interested in the London residential deal, like I said, it's an extremely unique opportunity. I don't know when we'll get the next one because it's been extremely difficult to close and get the mortgages. But anyway, we're getting it done next week. And if you want to participate, literally, this is a unique opportunity to get in right now and to start earning returns straight away. The medical buildings, we discussed both the Atlanta one and the Texas one. And, RB Care Homes for me is exciting with them literally coming out next week. And as Lyndon said earlier today, the other thing that you can do is that the beauty of the platform is you no longer have to choose. You can literally go onto the platform right now. And as long as you pledge tonight, then we allow you time to move your money and stuff, within WealthE Wednesday and, over the next couple of days. And you can actually go online, you can invest in all 4 and you can start to, build up a global portfolio, even putting $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 into every single deal. And, I learned this from my brother. By doing that, you're not only going to, start to get the returns, you're going to get that diversification across countries, currencies, asset class, partners, etc. but you're also going to learn about all the different assets. And that's what we mean by learning while doing. You're going to learn about what it's like to invest in a London residential deal. You're going to learn about investing in Atlanta in a medical deal. You're going to learn about a value add in Texas. You're going to learn about RB care homes. And, you know, for me, that's extremely powerful. But Lee, I've probably taken everyone's time, and so I should probably shut up. And yeah, my request to everyone, if you enjoyed it, please go out there and share it with your friends. We do WealthE Wednesday every single Wednesday on the first Wednesday of every month. And my request is, if we're adding value to you, please go out there and add value to every single other person. Let's finish tonight with Zig Ziglar's quote: you can have anything you want if you help enough other people get what they want. How many people are you helping? Good night, and thank you very much, Lee.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you next month for WealthE Wednesday.